I'm Glenn Smith. I've been flying drones for several years. About 3 years ago I saw the potential of drones and decided to take my PFCO to fly commercially. The UK commercial drone industry is massive and growing at an exponential rate, and with the introduction of high-spec consumer-level drones and the new drone rules introduced in the UK this year, the door to the commercial drone world has now been opened. But what is the use of the gear if you don't know how to successfully and safely use it? Please enjoy this video, and hopefully it will help create an awareness of what can go right and what can go wrong. Hello, I'm Glenn. I want to do this video today on back of the new drone rules got introduced into the UK earlier this year. I've been flying drones for several years. About 3 years ago I decided to take my PFCO. That was a training course, a 5-day training course, which consisted of 5 days theory with a written exam and a flight test at the end of it. Now, with the new drone rules, that does create more freedom to do more with your drone, but it also gets rid of a lot of the training that's needed. So this is just giving awareness of what to look out for, what dangers can happen, and what can go right and what can go wrong. Okay, this video today is not designed to show you and tell you all the rules. There's much better videos on YouTube that tells you about the rules. There's a video by a chap called Ian in London that does a very, very good and clear description of the new rules. This is more just an awareness when doing either with a commercial job or just a pleasure flight. Just things to look out for, just things to be aware of, and just to make sure you fly safely and enjoy the hobby that you're doing. Okay, with the new introduction of the new rules in the UK this year, in January, it's massively opened up the door to locations you can fly drones. Now, I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room, and this is the Mavic Mini. Like it or not, this is a really, really useful tool, and it just creates a massive more options to where you can fly and distance you can fly to. Now, with the things like the Mavic 2, the Mavic Pro, you're going to need an A2 CFC to fly in a more urban area, but the Mavic Mini you can pretty much just fly through reading the manual. Now, it is a really good tool, but same again, you still need to know how to use it and how to use it correctly. Okay, now for me, the most important part is the planning, especially on a commercial flight, but it's down to where you're flying. If you're flying in an urban area, you need quite a detailed level of planning. If you're flying in the countryside, it's probably just a quick check of a map, check the NOTAMs, and you're probably good to go. Check your permissions. What you need to, with a commercial job, I would recommend doing a detailed survey before you go to site, looking at maps, looking at what's in the area. What you got to look at as well is what's in your surrounding area. If you've got a drone that will fly 30 miles an hour for a battery life that's at 30 minutes, you've got to look what kind of area it'll cover. Is there any airports nearby? What kind of distance will be in that? Now, if you're just flying for a hobby, you don't really need to go into that detail. But what I also recommend is if you get to site, do a survey on site to look for any electrical mass, any towers, anything that can cause a hazard when you're flying around. An important part of the pre-planning is knowing where you can and can't fly. You need to have an understanding of the different airspace classifications. This is part of the old PFCO training, which is now the GVC and the A2 CFC. There are 5 classifications of airspace in the UK: A, C, D, E and G. But the main ones that as a drone operator, either hobbyist or commercial, is Class D and Class G. Class G is uncontrolled airspace and no permission is needed to fly from air traffic control, whereas Class D is controlled but allowable to fly, and I would recommend gaining permission from ATC of the nearby airfield to fly in this class. Obviously, the big no-go areas are the no-fly zones. This could be around airfields, prisons, etc. And there is apps available to help with this planning, such as NASA Drone Assist, but I do highly recommend getting a CAA air chart for the area that you're flying in. This clearly shows the airspace classifications and any obstructions that could be present. Okay, one thing to look for now is your permissions, where you can take off, where you can land. Now, as I said earlier on, you've got a massive opportunity where you can fly now, but you still need to look at where you're taking off and landing. The landowner's permission that you're flying from, so you need to make sure you've got that. Do you need it? If I say look online before you go, and just make sure that you're clear and happy to fly. There's nothing nicer than flying a drone in an area knowing that you've got permissions to fly and you're not going to get a tap on the shoulder asking you what you're doing there. Now you get up in the morning, you're looking out the window, you decided to take the drone out for a flight, and you see it's a little bit windy. Okay, maybe not that strong a wind, but what you got to look at is when I'm flying my drone, if I'm flying with a tailwind, what kind of distance am I going to cover? If you've got a tailwind of 20 mile an hour and you're flying a drone at 10 mile an hour, you're going to be covering a distance at 30 mile an hour. Then you've also look at what battery you've got to return. So if you're flying out with a tailwind, that 20 mile an hour tailwind is a 20 mile an hour headwind. And if you've got a drone that'll fly a maximum speed of 30 mile an hour, you're only going to be returning at 10 mile an hour. So just things about that to look for. Now a lot of drones will cope with a good amount of wind. Now, but it's always a good idea to always try and fly out into a headwind. So you're always returning back with the tailwind. It's just a little bit of common sense to make sure you don't lose your drone and you don't end up somewhere where you can't find it. Flyaways. Now one thing to watch out with flyaways is, same again, what do you do? What happens if you do have a flyaway? That's what you've got to look at and think what direction is it flying in, what hazards are in that direction, what damage it can cause, how long it's going to fly for, and who to notify if you do get a flyaway. Okay, this next part is very important, especially for photography and video, and probably the best piece of equipment you'll be armed with, and that's knowledge. If you don't know how to use the equipment, you're not going to get great results. Now you can throw them up, put in an automatic, and you'll get good results to use on Facebook. But if you're looking at flying commercially, you need to know how to use it. The right aperture, the right exposure, the right shutter. What am I doing video? Am I doing stills? The right light. Now these are things that you need to look at, especially if you're doing an item that you wanted to sell.
Hope you'll find this video helpful. As I said at the start, this video is not to give answers, but to help anyone wanting to start in a drone flying hobby, to give them an understanding on what's required to help make it a safe and enjoyable hobby. And hopefully, this will then keep the reputation of drone flyers as being responsible and safety conscious. If you did like this video, please give me a thumbs up and please subscribe. This is my first vlog, and if you do want further videos with more in-depth information, please leave a comment. Thanks for listening and happy flying.